Aloha, everybody, and welcome to The Joystick Show, a podcast where three friends from high school in Hawaii get together to chat about the latest things we've watched, read, and played. I'm Thomas, and today I'm joined by two very special and talented guests. They are the writers and the artists for California Inc. We got Art Ebuen. I've already screwed it up. Dang it, I'm so sorry. And Dave Law. We just trained for this. We just practiced. I already messed up. Art, please tell me how to pronounce your name again.
It's like Edwin, but with a B. Ebuen.
God dang it. I practiced. And here we are. Totally screwed it up.
David Law. David Law.
David Law? Oh, yes. and in the UK, Lar, right? We just went through this whole thing. I'm so bad.
That's hilarious. I love it.
But I did, in preparation for this, I was showing my wife. I was like, hey, I'm talking to this guy tomorrow. Let me see if anything pops out to you. And so she did some heavy Instagram stalking, Art. And we found a very epic Nintendo Switch costume from Halloween. I think it was last year. What is on the docket this year? And Dave, is there any Halloween costumes you're particularly proud of?
Oh man, that was I don't know why, but I just had fun and decided to make that sucker last minute for an event. I don't usually dress up like at all. I don't, but I got kids and they dress up. And I think the year before I made the mistake because Miles Morales is one of my favorite characters. Before he was cool, it's kind of like, like a band thing, before he was cool. Yeah, exactly. I was a big fan of Miles Morales. So I dressed up as him last year, but as much as I enjoyed it, it's really hard to see through those eyes at night, and it starts to fog up, and it's just bumbling around in the streets trying to catch my kids, and lifting it up, and like instead of seeing like a young man, there's this old like uncle looking dude lifting up his mask. I'm like, I'm not doing this again.
That's why Tom Holland's costume is all CGI, man.
Right?
Yeah, like, right. He can't look through that thing for 12 hours a day for a month.
But when he lifts it, he looks like a young man because he is. But me, it's like someone's Uber driver is, wearing a mask. What is this?
No way.
So, the Nintendo thing was just last minute. I saw something one time and just decided to make it out of cardboard, and had some fun with that for sure. This year, I might be putting in the Miles outfit again because my youngest one wants to be Gwen, so I might have to suffer through that. Well, we'll see.
There you go. If you put some spikes on it and get a jean jacket, you're Hobie. So, dude, that costume will work forever as long as we could fit in it. I mean,
Hobie's even cooler and way thinner, so I can't definitely pull that off.
No. It's all good, man. There's other Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse. You're gonna fit somebody out there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I could be the one with the gut.
Hey, Peter B. Parker. We could always be, and I'm putting myself in this category too because dad bod's going on, and I don't even have kids. So, Dave, any costumes that you were proud of over the years? Where you're like, that one was epic.
No, none that could compete with that arts costume. That was pretty good. No, I'm not a cosplayer. I can appreciate it, but it's not. Yeah.
There you go. Hopefully, some people start cosplaying some California Inc. characters in the future. That'd be tight.
Sweet.
That'd be awesome.
Wild. That would mean that you get arrived. And as far as I'm concerned, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would be shocked.
Hey, man, it's definitely going to happen. The book's really good.
If someone got Big Sis's tattoo, that'd be wild.
Nice. Hey, it could happen, man. Yeah. So before we jump into some of the personal experiences, you've had some experience doing art for The Simpsons and Futurama. Mm-hmm. For either one of you guys, which one of the characters from either one of these universes would you most like to go on an adventure with?
Bender, right?
Oh, I was hoping you'd say that. And that to me is my answer. But I don't know. Maybe Dave has a different answer.
Otto for me, definitely. We go in that school bus.
Nice. Speaking of cosplaying, I think you could pull off Otto with the hair.
Yeah, right? That's true. For a while I used to think it would be Jimbo, but I'm definitely more of an Otto guy now.
And I think knowing you could probably get into character and do the dude thing. Just his voice.
Yeah.
I could, yeah, definitely, dude.
Yes.
Oh my
Yeah, brother.
Yeah.
Solid impression. Solid.
That's
And
great.
good pulls all around. I mean, Bender is definitely one of my favorites. Like, did you have
Yeah.
anything to do with the new Futurama art?
No, I was on first season only, just the first season.
Okay, right on.
Yeah.
Which is an iconic season so much.
Yeah.
I mean, that set the whole groundwork for the show, meeting the characters, everything. I mean, that's awesome. That's awesome. So actually, let's talk about that a little bit. Well, first, let's talk about. So, as a kid, were you constantly drawing? And this question I think relates to both of you guys. Were you constantly drawing? Were you constantly creating stories? How did you end up in this field that you're in?
Well, I'm actually more related to Dave in that way, where I'm technically a visual artist by trade first. So writing is something that I just started maybe just like Dave about 6 years ago. But I've always, like my son, he's 15. I've always drawn comics and wanted to be an animator my whole life, and so that's what led to getting there. Illustration, drawing, that's been kind of like the bedrock of my artistic background. And then after doing that for a few years, I moved on to graphic design, photography, and now I'm actually working in the world of video production. So like you, I do interviews, and I do a lot of photography as well for clients. So a lot of that interweaves with each other, kind of like my composition and understanding for photography and drawing helps out with setting up panels for Dave's, and we both kind of could just say stuff and we know what angle we're talking about, that kind of thing. Awesome. So they all kind of combine and work together. But I consider myself more of a visual artist, but I'm really wondering if I should have pursued writing earlier, because I'm finding a much more artistic satisfaction with it that I never knew I would have ever gotten with drawing. I still love drawing, obviously, but I would say I'm a visual artist first that happens to write. And I'm thinking it's been weird putting myself down as a writer. And then like, even at work now, I write for clients too. So it's just very weird now, but in a good way. Like, I'm excited about it. It's
Absolutely.
Finding out something new about myself as an artist.
That's incredible, man. I mean, one, you complimented me way too much saying it's something like you do. I'm not a professional at any means. This is like just, an office, or I guess a back room that got turned into a streaming zone for podcasting. So what you do is very nice, very professional, and like incredible. But dude, yeah, I can imagine probably the visual experience probably translates in a very maybe almost easy way to writing, because you see it in your mind and then you're able to put it in words. And I feel like I get that from California Ink. So that's really, really badass.
Yeah. So Dave I think can talk to this after I bring it up, but so it's this weird thing where as a writer and as a new writer, I wrote California Ink as what's considered full script, which means I describe all the panels, and it actually takes longer. And in the end, I think it takes away the chance for my illustrative partner like Dave from being more creative and kind of solving the problem for me. You know what I mean? But at the time, I didn't know Dave when I wrote it. I just wanted to make sure it was like it could happen. I didn't want to write a bunch of stuff and not know. And the storyboarder in me wanted to plot out each thing to make sure this can happen. And then when I finally met Dave a few years after writing all the issues, I said to him, I was like, hey, this is full script, but have fun. And he's found that balance of like honoring a lot of stuff that I've come up with, but also tweaking some stuff. And some of these panels are just like, why would you? Oh, that's really cool. Right. Without spoiling too much, but there's a certain part of issue 2 where something's falling, and the way it's kind of happening, it looks way better than what I would imagine because Dave's putting himself into it. So yeah, I'll let Dave talk about that a little bit too.
Yeah. So Dave, to start at childhood and then catch me up to issue 2. No, I'm just kidding. No, but seriously, like, yeah. Were you always drawing? Were you always creating stories? I know we kind of talked about it a little bit offline, but yeah, take it away.
Oh yeah, definitely. Comic books were most definitely my gateway into visual arts, and it's obviously left an impression on me. I got some comics from some cousins of mine a trip to visit them, and I just poured over them. And it, believe it or not, it was X-Men. It was some old issues of X-Men. Jim Lee like drawing Uncanny X-Men, and the art in those books back then was just so awesome. It was so amazing that it just drew me in, and I remember copying the art from it over and over again and just trying to be just like him. I kind of veered away from that, got into music, got into other things, bikes, stuff like that. And I always was drawing, but and I even did some graphics for the bike companies I worked for. But it was always kind of on the side, and but I always wanted to do it. And I got to this point where I think I just realized like I was lacking a lot of creativity in my life. And my wife, I got to credit her for the one to really realizing it, and just realizing that something was I was going through kind of a depression, and when you're kind of in life, you just kind of roll with it, and sometimes you don't realize that.
Yeah.
And so she kind of was like, hey, we're financially in this place where maybe you can revisit doing this art thing, because I had actually tried it right after college and kind of gave up relatively quickly. And so decided to give it another go, and it's been awesome. I mean, it's just like Art said. I kind of wish I had just really given it my all in the first time around, and as opposed to doing all this other whatever that stuff was I did, because none of this seems important anymore. It's all about drawing comics, and I've just dedicated myself to it for the past 6 years, and it's great working with someone like Art, to kind of get back to the question of the visual storytelling. I think I definitely am a visual storyteller, and a lot of my gripes with comics is when, you can tell that the writer doesn't trust the artist and is doing all this description of what you're seeing,
Right, like the old Stan Lee method where somebody would draw something and then he would just fill in the text.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if that necessarily matches, but this is the issue, so here you go.
Yeah. It's such a weird kind of separation. And even those comics that really kind of pulled me in at the time, I don't remember really a lot of the stories, no discredit to the writers at that time, but it just was, it just didn't like match up. There was all this text. Sometimes it was just describing what I was seeing, and Art being someone I think that comes from already this visual storytelling place. He never does that. Like none of the panels tell you. I mean, he even barely tells you where the area you're looking at. But he wants it's in the descriptions. It's we're in an area close to the border, close to Arizona, or right here on this edge of Tahoe and California, and he's specific in that, so it comes through in the story and in the visuals, but he doesn't spell it out. And I love that. That's what I think is the perfect blend that people can find in a comic, when the words and the visuals just kind of weave together to create a unique experience, rather than someone's telling you the story as a narrator and here's some pictures to go along with it.
Right. Yeah. Perfect synergy. It feels like there's kind of these boundaries, but in those boundaries you can be as creative as you want, and it just, because of that, and there's the trust, it just matches together really well. I felt that from the book too. I mean, cool. Really, it felt like each scene was pointing you in a direction, taking you through a story, and there was a point to that panel. It didn't feel like anything was wasted in it, so I did really, really appreciate that. Now we're gonna go back a little bit, Art, and so how did you get hired in the first place with the Simpsons and Futurama? Oh. And yeah, we're taking it back. We're like, because you guys brought me up to speed on where you're at now, and thank you so much. I think that was incredible. But I still want to start back to those shows. I mean, they're super iconic. How do you get hired? And then once you do, what is a typical day like at one of those companies?
Ooh, well, so right out of high school.
Question, sorry.
No, sorry. So right out of high school, one of the first things you want to do as a prospective animator is get into kind of like the mecca of animation schools here in Southern California called Cal Arts. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the better artists. I'm not saying the best, but one of the better artists in high school.
The best. Let's just say the best.
Definitely
man.
not.
I was the best guy to ever come out. No, I'm just kidding.
But and I didn't realize that I was a small fish in a smaller pond at my high school because I applied to CalArts thinking I was going to get in, did not come close, totally rejected, and it killed me. So I was like, fine, I'm going to move to LA and spend the next few years just building my book. And I spent 3 years in LA, going to a bunch of unaccredited art schools, all by artists who work in the industry to help me build my book and understanding of animation, figure drawing, composition, character design, all that stuff. But I didn't realize I was kind of building my own curriculum as though I was in CalArts. And I would, so after a couple of years of that, I was actually applying to animation jobs at the same time. And I actually got accepted into CalArts and got the job at Futurama at the exact same time.
That's crazy.
School or Futurama, what do you do? And I found out that a lot of graduates from CalArts were getting the jobs at Futurama. So I was like, well, I kind of already did it.
Yeah,
right?
Let me skip the school part and then just go right to where I'm going to be anyway, or want to be.
And I'm not going to say that was the best option. I kind of going back, I really probably should have gone to school, because as much as I enjoyed Futurama, I didn't do that well in the first season. And then I moved on to The Simpsons. I did pretty well for the first 2 seasons, but I just wasn't as prepared as I wish I could have been. And I actually fell out of love with it. And realized that I pigeonholed myself as just a character animator. So people who aren't happy after some time, if they got the full education, have a broader range of experiences to then change into, like a background designer, character designer, storyboard artist. I didn't have any of that. So I was like, let me just go back to school and go study something else. And in the process of kind of researching where I wanted to go back to school for, what to go back to school for, I decided I want to study graphic design and photography and advertising. Fell in love with that. Right on. And I've been doing that for so many years. But going back to animation, there is at The Simpsons, at least that's one I remember the most. There's at least, I want to say 5 or 6 directors, and on each director there's a certain amount of teams. And so they overlap. And so usually the stages are from script, it comes to storyboard artist, which is what the director's working on. And they hash out the storyboard, so they roughly lay it out. And then that happens. And after that happens, and then it comes to us as a character layout person, and we're assigned, depending on how long each scene will take, you're taking these 2 scenes for the next 2 weeks. So in that time, I'm then building the background, the camera move, and locking in, kind of blocking in where the animation's happening within the screen based off of the storyboards, plus listening to the track and looking at the script. And so you're kind of combining in feature film like 5 different positions into one in TV. And then it's just kind of over and over again and revisions, but at the same time just kind of in the trenches with a bunch of other animators just laughing all day. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun,
that
but
sounded
also
really stressful, and then you said the laughing all day part. I was like, okay, well, that doesn't sound
it's
so
kind
bad.
of bonding through trauma. You know what I mean? Kind of like, I've learned that somewhere online, and you know, Dave, I know you can relate to this because you go out with your buddies to go drawing, and what's fun about that is you might not be talking to each other, but when you're out drawing with your buds, there is some kind of bonding, knowing that we're in the same space doing the same thing. And it's just that comfort of like being with your
fellow
comrades, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. In the trenches, again, the trauma bonding.
right. Definitely. But I mean, it seems like a lot of that stuff you were talking about, it seems like it translates a lot to California Inc. as well. When you were talking about the storyboarding and visualizing it and then passing over to Dave, like it seems like all of that experience has now kind of brought you to where you are with your own comic book. And I'm sure with probably some of the other work you do on the side. So yeah, you know, I'm sure it was tough, and yeah, everybody can look back in retrospect and be like, I should have done this, I should have done that. But when you're in the moment, man, that experience sounds incredible.
It definitely helps. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm a producer and a writer for a production company. So 90% of my job is preparing for a shoot. So knowing all that, it's like, well, seeing the scripts, we need to know how many shots we have, you know, what gear we need. I could prepare for that mentally. And then so when we're on set, we're not trying to figure it out. So yeah, there's a lot of prep, but it comes with a lot of experience for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, Dave, that was really cool. I didn't know about your artist group, I mean, do you feel that same way that he was talking about? Like where you guys are all kind of, again, maybe you're not talking, but you're in the trenches, you guys are working on these things, and just that camaraderie. What's your experience with it?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's probably why we came together in the first place. Is it's like, drawing comic books is definitely a solitary kind of life. You're spending a lot of time alone in here, just drawing, right? Mm-hmm. So it like I noticed, like we'd meet each other at these conventions. You go to a lot of these comic conventions and you hang out with these people and you're like, wow, we can talk for a while. We have a lot of the same thoughts and about what's going on in the world and art and culture and stuff. So it's like and we all are also just sitting around drawing by ourselves during the week when most people are at work. So
yeah, that's good podcasting time though. Right,
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Little plug for me. Then we're back to you.
yeah. So I think we found some like-minded individuals in the area, and so we probably don't get together as much as we'd like, but when we can, someone kind of feels up for it, we usually give a shout out in a group, and then we try to get together. I like to say it's a drawing meetup / support group.
yeah, that's right. Something about that part in art school where you're just in the same room painting, just something about that. And I don't know, because I'm older, I just started using Twitch for the first time last week. Only because an artist, Dave, who did one of our covers, Connor Hughes, invited me. He's like, hey, I'm on Twitch now, want to give it a whirl? And I was like, yeah. So I'm on my computer doing stuff, and he's on there drawing. Nobody's talking. They're asking questions randomly, and then I'll kind of chime in. But I was then messaging him later. I was like, that felt like I was in like a studio with another artist. I was working on a logo I was doing the CAPS logo for you.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. While I was working on that logo, I was watching his Twitch, and it felt like I was in the studio with him hanging out. I felt like I had what you have with Don and Phil hanging out at the mall drawing. I was like, oh, this is. You're right. It's very solitary, and it's hard kind of just not having that kind of bonding with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing what technology can do, though. I mean, yeah, you don't need to be physically near that person, but the fact that you could kind of feel that camaraderie and like we're working together, even though nobody's talking, and you could be hundreds of miles away, maybe thousands of miles away. It's incredible that you can still get that feeling, man. That's awesome. That's really, really cool. So let's see. So you take all that experience, and now we're on California Inc., an awesome comic book. I read issue number 1. We have issue number 2 coming out on Kickstarter. How long were you thinking about this idea, and where did the idea come from? Because it's really unique. California kind of succeeding away from the U.S., and what does that look like as its own country, and also just purely, I feel like, monetized. Like, where did this idea come from?
It's funny because when we pitch it, we're sitting at a table and someone asks us about it, and we pitch it. It's usually, oh, we seceded, huh? It's usually we, because it's Californians. I'm here in California. And it's funny because as much as there's pride, it was actually written out of satire because I'm from California. When I moved to Boston and for college, it was a lot of like, oh, do you guys all surf? Are you all vegan? Do you all do yoga?
Right. Avocado with every meal.
Well, first of all, we all three of us do all that.
In fact, every day. Yeah. I just surfed and had an avocado sandwich and had a smoothie and a green juice. So, yeah.
I did have a vegan burger last night, and it was delicious.
But, whoa. Super Californian. Easy art.
But also at the same time, I was working at later on, I was working at corporate. I don't want to say which company, Jack in the Box. But just kind of the corporate jargon always made me laugh. And so just the idea of like, we're kind of pompous, we are. But also the joke was, well, what if we're right? And then so the idea was, what would happen if we separated? So kind of went from there. It's kind of like a joke in my head, but then also kind of like AI, it's we don't know where it's going, but what if it goes the wrong way? So same with California. Like, we think we're doing the right thing. California, you think you're going the right way, and what happens if we do separate and it gets out of hand? So here's what it's looking like.
Right on. Okay, so this idea kind of came to you in adult age when you're doing your professional work and all that, and just kind of seeing corporate life. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah,
Right
yeah.
on.
It was probably, I think I started writing it back in 2016. I mean, it was in my head since 2014. And Justin, our editor, he's a comic book buddy of mine. We met at a comic book shop here in San Diego. He's a writer
Kamikaze
too.
Comics. Shout out
Yeah,
to
no, actually, we
Kamikaze
met it
Comics.
yesteryear. We met it
Oh,
yesteryear.
okay. Gotcha. All right.
Yeah, yeah. He and I, we hung out a lot, and he's a writer, and he's like, "Hey, why don't you put something in paper?" And I was like, "Yeah, I got a couple ideas." And so I pitched him a couple, and he's like, "That's a good one. You should probably push that one through." And he guided me through a lot of the writing. He doesn't want to take too much credit, but he really helped me through my first writing venture in terms of long form. So that was nice to have somebody like Dave. It's just nice to have like somebody next to you drawing. It's just good to have somebody bounce things off of. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, as much as it's your idea, for sure that collaborative process, I'm sure, is a super helpful and it's really supportive. And yeah, I mean, would you say this is your first foray into writing anything long form?
Yes, it is. I was in advertising before video production for about 16, 15 years. And so I was always kind of wowed by the amount of research that we would do to prepare for a campaign. And because you have to be an expert for your client to speak on their behalf. And every single thing you put out there is maximum 30 seconds long. And so, but there's all this knowledge about something. So I thought, what if I took that understanding and learning how to learn and put it towards long form and, make a longer version of, just kind of the concept. And so, this is my kind of taking that learning and putting it towards long form for sure. First time. Yeah.
Oh man, incredible. What was the thought process for the locations? Because you start off issue number 1, we're in Tahoe. And I love Tahoe. I've been a big snowboarder for a long time. For a buddy's bachelor party, we got to hang out on the lake. And it's just this interesting setting, right? It's beautiful. But when you think about corporatized California, I don't always think about Tahoe. I also say we get a shout out at San Diego. But what was the thought process for the locations and not just saying San Francisco or LA?
Well, San Diego was an easy headquarters because that's where I'm at, and that's where Comic Con's at. Like, this is a huge shout out for us.
And where I'm at.
Yeah, exactly. But for the Tahoe thing, it's specifically because one of the reasons why we aren't able to be our own thing is because we don't have a lot of our own fresh water source. And so as much as we split Tahoe, the idea is like, for us to have our own fresh water, what if we move that borderline around and we ended up owning Tahoe? So that's why it's a battleground. That's why there is the conflict that happens in issue 1 there, is because it's now a point of tension between the old Union and California Inc. So that's why that's kind of important. And how serendipitous for me, because Dave grew up going to Tahoe, as he mentioned. So I didn't imagine this, but Dave, can you tell him about your thought with the whole, like, you tell. I don't want to spoil, but you tell them about that.
So I thought it was an interesting location too, because I just like you, I grew up going to Tahoe all the time also, but like you, I always went during the wintertime. And I think Art had originally thought of this during the summertime or not. And so I was like, well, visualizing all this snow and flurries and everything. And I brought that up, and he's like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. And so it was really cool. I'd love to be able to inject that part because I did really have a lot of memories of Tahoe and to be able to kind of pull that into the background, especially some of the times, like you're a snowboarder too, it's not always blue skies and pure white snow. Like you go up there and there'd be like a storm going on. Right?
Yeah. You can't see but 5 feet in front of you.
But you paid a lot of money to get there, so you're still gonna go snowboard, And I actually really loved that kind of feeling of being there. And being here in San Jose, California, you don't ever get that. Like, never gets snowy like that here, and so it was fun to illustrate. And I had some ideas of how I would do that too, and I think the scenes came out looking really cool.
Can you imagine if you didn't bring that up and you kind of kept it warm? that iconic cover they have for issue 1 with her with the goggles because of the snow and in the jacket, we wouldn't have that. And that was all because you thought of that whole like winter theme.
I mean, that's awesome.
Super, yeah. That's
Thank you.
I give that all to Dave. That was all him.
That's sweet. There you go. Another part of the collaborative process, but like that's the idea of that, I mean, that totally makes sense. But again, I think of Tahoe as snowy, Squaw Mountain, heavy, like, yeah, that's sick. Really freaking cool. So next, what is next? I mean, we got issue number 2 again with the Kickstarter available. Can you give us a little bit of a hint, without spoiling anything, of what we can expect in issue number 2? Because there's almost a little bit of a cliffhanger in issue 1. Yeah, I don't want to spoil. I'm trying so hard not to spoil. I want people to read this, right? Like, but yeah, tell me what you can about issue number 2.
I guess quick version is you're meeting the rest of the ensemble cast. You know, they're going to form the rest of the story for you, and why, you know, it's no one's bigger than what's around them. So it's more than one story happening, and you'll meet my favorite 2 characters, which are the sibling duo. And you know, I know that Justin had fun editing their voices because he changed up some of that dialogue, and I was just on the floor laughing or just like in awe because he understood where I was trying to go with those characters. And then Dave then translating it visually, it was like, whoa. And then of course, you know, just because I'm Filipino, and also for me, representation does matter. You know, I have a strong Filipina character in there who's introduced, and we get to meet them. All 3 of those folks is what you'll get it'll set up a lot more of other storylines that are kind of interweaving.
Yes,
for sure.
Asian pride. Let's go.
Yeah, there you go.
Right on. All right, sweet. And I think they're on the cover of issue 2, right?
Correct.
Now, did you draw that?
It did, yeah. Well, one of them. I think I do the main cover and a variant, and Art's having a couple really talented artists do some other variant covers too. So, right, and I think they're all floating out there right now. We've been showing off all of them, so they all look really amazing. But yeah, the main one with the two siblings on there, I did do.
I love that.
That one is sick.
Dave's I like to call them anchor covers rather than kind of the standard, because it sounds like plain.
But like, right. There's nothing standard about these covers. They're epic.
I like that. Yeah.
If you put the 2 main covers that Dave did, you could feel like a theme. Like I could feel all 4 connecting, like being like, you know, the statements for each issue. And I love that kind of stoic, like I'm on the cover. Like they know they're on the cover. It's so dang cool. When he sent that to me, I was like, I have no edits.
I have no critiques. This is perfect.
I was like, I think I might have said, can I make that my pop-up background for when I table, you know, because it's you know, it's and I love those two characters. So yeah, love that one a lot.
Art writes some great characters. I think that's something that is oftentimes not really expressed when you pitch the story. You know, I've noticed that, like that when you're talking about geopolitical sci-fi story about California city, you completely gloss over the really great array of characters that Art's put into the story, and I like trying to have that come out on the covers in particular, because it's such an important image. I really try to pack as much of that their personality and character in there. And I've had some people that I've been showing the cover to have noted, they're like, I like the way that, you know, these covers, they make me want to read it because I want to find out what this character is about, and I can tell that there's something behind them, and yeah, that's what I was going for.
Man, you nailed it. Yeah, because I mean, because I got to see what issue 2's cover is, and you're right. Like it feels raw and real, and the way they're posing. Excuse me. It's interesting. Like it almost gives me that feeling of, have you guys watched Nope? You know, where there's
my wife's seen,
it's like Daniel Kaluuya, and I'm forgetting what the the lady's name is, but they're this brother and sister, and I kind of get, but they have this attitude and they have this swag to them and this confidence. Like I already get that from issue 2's cover. So I think you nailed it. If that's what you're going for.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. That's I'm glad you got that, because especially with Big Sis doing her thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's kind of my favorite character. Just gonna put it out there.
Right on. All right. No bias there. No favorites for your characters. Got it. Well, right on, guys. Well, before we go, we're gonna start wrapping things up a little bit. But where can people find you guys? Where can they support the book? Social media, all that.
You want to go first, Dave?
Sure. I think we're in all the platforms, right? But I think the main place would be the website, California Inc. Comics. Is that
California Inc. What's our website? No, sorry.
But yes, because that's what our art maintains that really well, and I'll put stuff on my Instagram that relate to it, but Art's been managing that part. So like my Instagram is ITS Dave Law. It's Dave Law. So that's mainly where I'm posting updates, and I'll post pictures of my progress on the book, and I'm currently deep in it, so there's lots of images that'll kind of give you an insight into what the next issue is going to be about. I try not to obviously spoil anything with it, so it's kind of a fun place to check that out.
Yeah, as I know today, it's pretty hard not to talk about the book without spoiling too much. So, yes, I understand. Thank you. Art, what about you? Where can people find you? Where can people support the book, and other projects that you're working on?
Let's see. So I'm at Art Ebuen, ARTEBUN at Instagram, and is it Twixer?
Twitch?
Twitter with an X?
Oh, I got you. Yeah, X, formerly Twitter, kind of like a Prince reference, I guess, is what they're going for. I'm
gonna call it Twix. On Twix,
left or right?
Both.
Yeah.
At Art Ebuen, but the Instagram for the book is California Inc. INK comic. California Inc. comic. That's the Instagram handle. But also, if you go to CaliforniaIncComic.com, you go straight to the Kickstarter and find it there. And anybody who's missed the first issue, you got the catch-up options for both physical and digital. So you should be able to catch up both first and second issue. And so when 3 comes around, you're ready for that too.
And if you happen to be going to Dragon Con, I'll be showing up with issue 1 there too.
I'm so jealous. I wish I was going.
Right on. Are you going to be signing them as well? And
absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So. There you go, Dragon Con. You can get a signed issue of California Inc. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate your time coming on. There's one thing I ask everybody to say, our guests. So before we close out, you can say any final words, but the last thing I want you to say, and I don't know if you want to do it in unison, is thanks for sticking it with us.
Ready?
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking
it with us.
Oh, man.
Damn Zoom.
Yep, I got you guys. Yes. All right, aloha, everybody. Thanks.
The Joystick Show.